Welcome to another episode of the Accidental Landlord Podcast. I'm your host, Peter McKenzie, and today we're going to be going over the third quarter rental data, what it means for you, what to do with the information, and how to use it in your business as you are a landlord. So let's get right into it. So not the greatest quarter. We didn't have the best news last quarter. Properties were sitting on the market. We had a lot of properties on the market. We have a similar amount of properties on the market. In Ventura County, we're tracking about 1,883 rental units available right now. And then in the city of Ventura, we're tracking about 452 available units, very similar to what it was last quarter. So we haven't really seen all the inventory fall off. I know in our own business, we feel like we are definitely have a lot of available units, which tracks with this data that we have here. Let's talk about the median rent in the city of Ventura. And just to refresh your memory, we are tracking 3-bedroom houses only in the city of Ventura. Right now, that number is $4,195, which is more than it was last quarter. Again, this is not the average. This is just the median, which is affected by whether there's, really low price homes or really high price homes, but it gives you a general idea of how much an average 3-bedroom cookie cutter house in Ventura is renting for. All right. The other thing we'd like to talk about is how long these properties take to rent. In our case, we track when we release it for showings to when we have a signed lease. If you recall, last quarter, we were right between 14 and 15 days. We're getting closer to 20 days right now, which is an indication that things are taking a little bit longer to rent. There's extra inventory on there's a lot of units available, which usually translates into choices and options for people who are looking to rent, which usually translates into it takes a little bit longer to rent. Add on top of that, we've now kind of turned the corner. School's back in session. Historically, we see a slowdown around this time of year, And then in addition to that, with the extra inventory above what we normally have, this is why it makes sense that it's going from, roughly 14, 15 days up to 20 days to find a renter. It's still better than like the national average. Most people think about vacancy as anything less than 30 days is good. So we're still doing good from that perspective, but it is taking us a little bit longer than what we've seen, in the previous quarters and or even a year ago. All right, let's talk about vacancy rate. I hate this measure because it's really hard to find true vacancy rate in our area specifically. So this is more of a gut feeling, if you will. It's not scientific by any means. We're seeing more properties out of our portfolio available on the market than we normally do. So that also tracks with more inventory on the market, natural kind of slowdown due to the time of year, longer to rent the properties. It's going to translate into more vacant units. So we are seeing in our portfolio a slightly higher percentage of vacant properties. It's hard to say. It fluctuates all the time. We're renting houses, all the time as ones are becoming vacant. But the general gut feeling is the vacancy rate is higher than normal, which is a problem, which is not really what you want as a landlord. So what does this mean? I think in our last update, we talked more extensively on this. It means that you got to make sure your house is nice. You got to be the house that people choose over their other options. So, make sure the houses are updated, make sure things are clean, landscaping, curb appeal, all that stuff. Okay, so that's our market update in a nutshell. It's short, quick, not a whole lot has changed other than it taking a little bit longer to rent. Inventory is roughly the same. Let's talk about some other things that are going on that are pertinent to you being a landlord, or even if you're a tenant, things you should be aware of. And the biggest one is we just wrapped up our national election, really. And in California, we had a particular proposition on the ballot, Proposition 33, that was going to be very impactful to your business as a landlord if it passed. It didn't pass. Not only did it not pass, but it was a landslide. I think the last poll I looked at, that none of this is finalized yet because the election just ended, I think, yesterday. It was somewhere in like between 65 and 70% of the voters said no to it. To refresh your memory, Prop 33 was going to be a measure that was all about rent control and all the ways that was going to affect you. Thankfully, it didn't pass, so we don't really have that to worry about. It doesn't mean that there aren't politicians and cities that are actively trying to make our lives harder when it comes to rent control. So I was just at a presentation by the city of Ventura, which is where our management company is located, and they are actively exploring their own tenant protection measures. So we already have Assembly Bill 1482, Senate Bill 567, which directly address rent control and just cause eviction. The city is now saying, I wonder if that's enough. Should we do something more aggressive? So I was part of the process in giving feedback and representing housing providers, mom and pop landlords, people that are just, not big, bad corporate landlords, and trying to make our voices heard there. So just keep your eyes out. Just know that because Prop 33 was defeated in the ballot box doesn't mean that there's not more different attempts that people are trying to do to regulate our industry more. So the other big one, there was a bunch of laws that came out recently when the legislative session ended. We're going to be releasing some content about more specifics related to those, but just know there are other bills coming that aren't good for you, frankly. But just be on the lookout for that. We are going to try to put out some kind of long form content that kind of dives a little deeper in what some of these laws mean for you and your business. So I hope that this information was helpful. As always, reach out to us if you have any questions about our take on the market, regulations, things that are affecting you and your business. Although we are in Ventura County, a lot of this data and information applies statewide, especially when it comes to statewide laws and regulations that politicians are passing. If you are in Ventura County and you want to have a conversation with us about either managing your property or answering questions related to being a landlord in our county, we'd be more than happy to have that as well. Thank you.